Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. As you've probably gathered, I am Karen Chaston and I have a special guest with me today. And she is the most amazing lady. Welcome, Michelle. Wait on, let me get the screen right. Welcome, Michelle. How are you?
I am really well. Thank you, Karen. Thanks for having me here.
I know, I'm really excited too. So, Michelle has been on a journey, a huge journey. Would you like to share it with everyone, Michelle?
Sure thing. So in 2018, my husband and I moved to Victoria for a final posting with the military, what was meant to be a final posting for him. And we moved into base accommodation down there to settle into the area whilst we looked for a home. And within a month, my marriage had imploded, and unexpectedly, it was huge. I had no idea it was going to occur the way it did, and at the same time, my father passed away, and a series of events occurred around the marriage imploding that were quite significant and left me in a state of shock and trauma.
And so, you had no idea before you moved to Melbourne with your husband? Had he hadn't given you any indications that this is the way he wanted the marriage to end?
No, no. I had gone there in the hope that it was going to be a fresh start for us. I'd been trying to rejuvenate the relationship for quite some time, pull us into a healthy space, more connected, that I thought we both wanted. That turns out that wasn't the case. So,
and there seems to be a delay in our communication.
Being isolated from everyone that I knew, including our son, who was living here in Sydney. And so I was one person down there, and it happened to be my best friend, which is how he had encouraged me to move to that location, so that I would get some time with my best friend. I really didn't want to leave our son, who was 21 at the time, here in Sydney. But he convinced me that it would be a good idea and allow our son space to grow and become a man. But I was conscious that my son had no family here in Sydney. So I was really torn leaving anyway. And I had several friends say not to go because they knew I wasn't comfortable with it. And against my better judgment, against my gut instinct, I actually went. So it turns out that I was exactly where I needed to be once I got there. And yeah, life unfolded in a way that I could not have perceived thereafter.
Okay. So 3 years on, looking back at who you were at that time, your healing journey, would you like to talk about the process and how you become this most amazing person that you are today?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's been an evolution back to self. I had lost myself in this relationship, which was 28 years long in terms of start to not quite finish, another 2 years thereafter to finish it out through the legal process. And what happened was I lost everything. I have a financial abuse journey to the point of recovery. I left Melbourne, Mornington, Melbourne. I had to return here to Sydney. I had 7.5 months on the couch.
This is what happens when we're alive. Okay, we back. This is the biggest problem with doing a live, isn't it? That you're fading in and out. I don't know whether it's me or you who's causing this delay. But so what I heard was that you had financial abuse. You were married for 20, or the relationship lasted 28 years by the time your divorce was finalized and everything. So where are you now?
Where am I now? So, I've gone through the legal process. It took close to 3 years. It wasn't a great outcome, but it was an outcome, and it was a very, very expensive process, and there was a lot of trauma through that. In December of 2019, our beautiful mutual friend suggested that we connect. I think she had spoken to you, and you must have asked after me, and she said what I was going through, and then you very kindly contacted me and said, look, would you like to travel through some of this with me, guiding you in a loss, a grief loss process, and to find your gift? And that's what we did. We actually got on with it, and I accepted, which was actually really hard for me to do at the time. I didn't feel like I deserved to have that offered to me, but I'm so grateful that you did. And I had to be really open and honest with you, and I had to break down some barriers that I had, because there was a lot of shame at the time that the person that I had chosen to give my life or spend my life with had treated me so poorly. There's not really any other word to cover it. And I had to let you in, and I had to be honest with myself about where I was, and I was in a pretty dark place at that time. I had considered taking my own life, which pains me to say that now, because life is so precious and no one should be in that situation. But I was in a deep despair at that time, and you recognised that. So we started the process, and through that process, I started to understand why I felt the way that I felt, why I had attracted this particular human to my life, and what it was I needed to heal in order to relinquish not just him, but my belief around what it was that we had created as energy between us.
Yeah.
So it was very formative, and it was very surprising, actually. I had done a lot of work over the years, but nothing like this, nothing like this.
Yeah. Yeah, the process really does get you to deep dive into who you are and all of your loss events throughout your whole life. And what I've found, and it certainly happened with you too, was the loss event that people come to me for is not normally the loss event that we end up working on. So do you want to like expand on that a little bit? Because I
Sure.
love the process so much, because it's so simple, but it's so revealing in its process.
It actually really was revealing, wasn't it? So I'm not sure if you'll remember, because I know you work with a lot of different people, but basically, the outcome was that I realized I had attracted in this particular human to my life to walk through life with, because I had unresolved relationship with my mother, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't see how much like my mum he actually was. Now, don't get me wrong, my mum had some very good redeeming qualities, but the relationship between us was always really fraught. She could only ever do battle with me. I'm a strong person naturally. I was born that way. I wish I was different, but to be in the same room together, she just wanted to take me down, and it turns out I just then went and replicated that in the marriage. So
Yeah.
I unwittingly created a relationship where I was codependent, financially constrained, and controlled, although I did not realize that at the time, and I certainly didn't. I knew it was a place of discomfort, money for me in the relationship, and I felt like I never deserved to have money because he earned and I looked after our son, and we did that because he was in the military, and we wanted stability for our son, given that we had no family members close by, that I would always be the person that took care of our son, and I took that to heart. That's what I wanted for my son, and that's what I bring to that particular human, that's not of value at the tail end of the relationship. So there was a lot of grief there. What I also discovered was that there were other relationships around the relationship with my mother that also required some healing.
Yeah.
So people that she'd had formative roles with, how she had portrayed me to them, and then how I viewed myself from her,
Yeah.
I guess, promulgating that that's who I was in her life, and
Yeah. So
therefore people perceiving that that's how I was also.
So through the process then, what do you feel that I know that you found you, but what would you say was the most enlightened, I guess, revelation that you had about yourself?
Oh, okay. That I'm actually lovable,
Wow.
that I deserve to be loved. That was probably the biggest thing, and, consequently, I actually attracted in, a beautiful human, and I felt loved for the very first time in my life ever, and that was incredible. That was a beautiful gift, and that was, post our journey together,
Yes.
um, and that was so formative for me, just to know that I could still be open, that I could be honest with someone, that I could be who I really am, that I was perceived and received as I actually am from my heart space. Um, and that was, short-lived because the other person, needed to be somewhere else in life, but it was so formative, and had I not gone through this, journey that we had together, this work that we did, I think that I wouldn't have a allowed that, even for that short period of time, because of where I had travelled from the marriage.
Yeah.
There was actually a secondary thing. I grew up believing that I, was not loved, and other people in my family could certainly see that I was definitely treated differently.
Yep.
I had lost love of self, so I think that's why the relationship that I had post-marriage was so, impactful, because in seeing that love reflected back to me, I suddenly felt worthy. Now, you can't go outside of yourself looking for confirmation that you are lovable, loved,
Yeah.
etc. That has to come from within. So that's
Yeah.
been the journey post that relationship. So that's been another gift, is actually understanding that I get up in the morning and it's enough. That I exist is enough. So yeah, not to go looking outside yourself to fill yourself up. There's no one else that can give that to you. It has to come from within. I guess the other thing that I realized was that, I was addicted to believing that my husband loved me, and that's what held me in the space for so long, because there were things said to me like no one else would love me the way he loved me. It was just a degeneration of self in what seemingly would appear to be uplifting, things. So what the person was outside of the home and then what the person was inside the home were contradictory. And so I was always in this state of, agitation and anxiety because, it was contradictory. And so I was left feeling like I was actually quite mad, um, and very much displaced, but then trying to exist in that and find my happy in that.
Okay, so it sounds like it wasn't only in the 28-year relationship with your husband, but it was probably for most of your life you did not feel loved, and therefore you didn't have your self-love, and that's what you gained as you walked through the process of moving beyond loss of your marriage and the loss of your father and all those things that happened around the time of your relationship. And you were sleeping on your 21-year-old son's couch for a little while before you could get back into the family home. So the trauma and I guess do you want to talk about that? What emotions did that bring up in you?
Yeah, so you feel like state clearly all that encompasses. You feel like that there's a level of destruction that occurs when the other person wants you to feel pain, and you can step into it as I did. I felt every emotion. I felt like someone had taken a bat to me and had physically attacked me. People couldn't see the pain that it was caused, knowing that you'd created another life with this person, like you'd created a human with this person, you created a home, you'd given up so much of yourself, and then because they deemed that they're the injured party, that you were then to be punished for that, for saying this, oh, we can't travel like this anymore. And I had tried several times to approach him and say, look, I think we've walked our path. Can we find a healthy way to extract from each other and to stay a family? That was what was important to me, so that we can, my son's going to eventually get engaged, married, things that happen, everything that we've been through to get to adulthood, our son was going to do, and grandchildren, which I knew was really, really important to my husband, that he always wants grandchildren. He only has one son, and he's alienated his son. So there was a huge amount of loss in all of that. Seeing my son grieving and having to be reliant on him, that my basic needs were not met so that we could extract healthily after he had created a situation, was very, very destructive. And it made me feel pretty much, sorry, it's not very professional to say, but shit on the bottom of someone's shoes, basically, was how it felt. Like you just were not, that my safety and security through the process did not matter to him at all. And so you've given so much time, space, and energy to someone, and then they just cast you aside and say, go fend for yourself. The thing that people don't know today is that the financial abuse was so intense that everything that we owned was actually in his name. And that made things very, very hard and resulted in a really big legal battle, that I was unemployed, no family support apart from my son, and my parents have both passed away, so no home, couldn't go home to mum and dad like some people might be able to. And I have beautiful friends that helped out, and I'm so grateful, and I'll always be grateful for that. But for the fact of my son and my friends. So there's just so many micro losses as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's explore this, because there's a lot of women who are unfortunately going through a similar situation, and you certainly have come up with a list of what you would do differently, if you were preparing to leave a marriage, or whether, or if you have just left a marriage. You come up with a lot of, I wish I had known this before, sort of thing. Not that I want to go into that now, but I want to more go into, because we don't have much more time, I want to go into the the way that the losses that apart from, the huge loss of your marriage, your financial situation, the loss of your son and your ex-husband's relationship, what other minor losses did you through the process come through?
Yeah, so there were micro losses and minor losses, and some of them are things like elements of belonging, things that you can't necessarily put into words. I was saying about possibly hearing a song, and I was at work the other day, and a song came on, and one of the staff members sort of like, froze straight away, and I realized I went and changed the song, and it turned out it was actually her wedding song. She was going through something similar, and so you become one of the gifts is you sort of become almost hyper aware of other people's responses to things, and that is I'm grateful for that, because it means I'm actually in the space, like I'm present. Things like music, you'll hear common sayings, and it will take you to a time or place, and this is true for anyone, whether you've lost a husband, a wife, a parent, a job, whatever. There'll just be, you might walk past a building and something formative happened there. But it's also about not being able to speak your truth was to people that are associated with the other party, even legal teams, where you can't just directly go to them and say, this is just a flat out lie. In relation to other women, and men go through this too, and I'm sure there'll be men in your audience. The thing is that women are most likely give up their workplace or their dedicated income. And I feel very, very passionate about talking to young women about this, and having people who have daughters, speaking to them about giving up their income or their education to make sure that they always look after their financial security, which I did not do, even to the point of I had under $50,000 of superannuation because I left work in 1993. I had worked throughout the marriage different things, but my super never grew, and this is common for a lot of people. The super that had accumulated on his behalf was more than our house. So so there are things like that. So I really like to encourage any woman that's listening, and any man too that has a daughter who's at the age of, say, 15 through to 18 or even beyond, to sit and ask them how they intend to take care of themselves financially. So this is one of the things I feel quite passionate about. This has been one of the gifts in all of this, is that I've actually found what my passion is, what my purpose in life is, and the work that we did together has taken me to that, because you actually introduced me to Bernard Schockman. And after we had gone through our work together, and then I was able to punch forward and work out what my actual life purpose was, and it's actually quite intense, and I'm working towards that now. So the biggest gift for me is that I got to heal. I got eyes on what it was I wanted for myself, and I now have the strength and the ability to put those measures in place to create what it is I know is forward of this journey. But having said that, I quite often pull back into what we have walked through, and the knowledge that you shared with me, and how to work through my emotions, get clear eyes on the subject matter, work out why I feel the way I feel, because there's always a reason for why you feel the way you feel.
Yeah, and there's always, and your body talks.
Correlate it, understand it, forgive it, which is probably the most important element. So I have,
there seems to be
so forgiveness, and I said this previously when we've spoken, forgiving yourself is quite instantly, because I can see the denigration of a person.
Yeah. Um, thank you, Michelle. I
Yeah,
think we're going to have to.
I forgave my partner, my
Yeah.
husband. I forgave him instantly, because I could see the denigration of the person. I could see how he was in face. Message is what you do works,
Yeah.
and it's
Oh,
helped. I'm
thank you.
grateful, really grateful.
Oh,
Had
thank
a
you.
huge impact on my life.
Okay. And unfortunately, we've got this delay, which is really annoying because I know we always have such great conversations. But more importantly, what I really want everyone to understand that is you always have a choice. Like Michelle could have had every reason to go into the blame and to stay in that for a very long time, which a lot of people do. But that wasn't going to serve her long term. And she chose to do that deep dive within herself, which is never easy. It's never easy because you're going to find out things about yourself, things that you'll probably want to stop doing, things that you want to start doing, and things that you want to continue doing. But the gift always comes when you take the time to look at whatever loss is coming into your life and go, what does this mean for me now? And what does it mean for me moving forward? And Michelle has really done the hard yards, believe me. She really did do that deep dive. You know, I've had people who have not done it as much and they haven't received as many of the benefits as what she has. And it always comes back to what you're willing to do for yourself. And you can stay stuck where you are. I've met people who are 20 years later stuck in whatever their loss was, you know, their divorce or loss of their loved one or whatever it is, and still haven't been able to move on. But that's what I love about Michelle. And we have become very close friends. And we do, whenever I go to Sydney, we always meet up and we always go for a walk and a chat. And we teach each other things. I learn as much from the people I work with as the people I work with learn from me. And it's always a two-way situation.
Me
So is there
too.
anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to say before I wrap this up?
Mm,
Because this internet is not working very well today.
I've learned a lot.
I don't know if you're frozen or whether you're talking. So annoying. Anyway,
Well, we started the conversation, I think I said to you, so
yeah.
can you
Well,
if you want to create
thank
change in your life, Karen can
yeah.
facilitate that,
Oh, thanks. But
and I'm
more
proof of that.
importantly,
I'm absolute proof
yeah.
of that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being here. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but anyway. I'll
We asked
see
for
you all here on Thursday, where the Chasten Centre then will deep dive into creating team dynamic workplace. On Mondays at 10, we always go into the Beyond Loss process and Beyond Loss Loving Life with Karen Chasten. On Thursday, we deep dive into the team dynamics. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Bye, Michelle.
Bye.